Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Fluid Fan Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Angela Ruggiero, a four-time Olympic medalist. That's my prior life. My current life is CEO and co-founder of Sports Innovation Lab. Really happy you're here today with me, with us, talking about Fluid Fan. We talk about these new fan behaviors and what to expect and how to evolve your business model based on the evolving behaviors of the fluid fan. So that's what this podcast is all about. I like to bring in really interesting guests that are doing cool shit and really taking the fluid fan research and applying it in the real world. So we've been doing this for 5 years, really look to experts to highlight some of the research that we do each and every day at Sports Innovation Lab. So today's guest is a great friend of mine, a fellow athlete turned entrepreneur. I always love I can have some fellow athletes on. Not that, I love everyone. I think everyone's doing a great job, but it's always interesting to me to talk to other athletes that have broken into the sports business landscape and really understand their journey. So our guest today is Jeb Terry. He's going to explain how he went from spending 5 years in the NFL. So he was an NFL, dominant NFL player, within his ranks, and how he turned his professional career as an athlete into innovating in the sports landscape. His current role is president and CEO of a company called Cosm. You probably hadn't heard a lot of Cosm, but they are absolutely doing something different, creating a shared experience for fans that help these fans really immerse themselves into the stadium and recreating the power of togetherness. So they're going to get into exactly what they do, but think about if you could blow up a screen, literally like a planetarium, and just watch sports. It's awesome. So he's going to talk about what that is, explain the technology that's redefining the way the world experiences content, how he thought of that concept, worked with obviously his investors and his team to build out Cosm. I've known Jeb for a few years. He's a member of our Fluid Fan Leadership Board and is a trusted advisor to the company. So his knowledge of the media and really experience industry is second to none. Really exciting for you to hear more about Jeb Terry and Cosm as he's pushing the industry to move more towards an immersive, engaging experience for fans. So let's get right to it with Jeb Terry, the president and CEO of Cosm, on today's Fluid Fan Podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to the Fluid Fan Podcast. I'm your host, as you know, Angela Ruggiero. I have an amazing guest today Jeb Terry, president and CEO of Cosm. Jeb, let's get into your background, but first, just welcome to the show.
Angela, thanks for having me. Excited to be on. Been, as you well knows, tracking the Sports Innovation Lab for a long time, trying to, continue to unpack and learn more about everything that's happening in sports and technology and how the industry is moving and shaking with the changing, fan behaviors and everything that's going on there. And really love the work that you and the team have been doing, and glad to have you on. And really excited about this next hour or so to share our story and have a fun time.
Yeah, you're a great guest. We've, as you mentioned, got to know each other well. You're an advisor. You've been on our leadership boards for many years. We've worked with your team at Cosm, and you get it. Like, you are someone that I've said from day one meeting you, Jeb. Like, you see the future, and you're building a really cool company that is.
I see a future, maybe not the future. But
you're not a storyteller. You're not a futurist. But I think, you've served on our immersive media leadership board in the past. And we've worked together closely, and just what we've talked about at Sports Innovation Lab around the fluid fan and, how this evolving fan needs a different experience, is dying for a new experience. You're doing that. So before we get into like what you're doing now, which I'm excited to talk about around Cosm specifically, you're also an athlete, which is another reason why I love you on the show. You got a lot of really awesome speakers, guests that our executives, but you're one of the few that I get to have on that's kind of like me. Like, you played sports as well, and you've crushed it. You spent 5 seasons in the NFL. You have both a BA from University of North Carolina as well as an MBA in finance there. So you've done the pro athlete thing. You got your MBA like I did, and now you're trying to crush it and build a really amazing company at Cosm. So walk us through, I think, just for background, how you got to where you are. It's always a question I get asked, like, how the hell did you go from like playing pro sports to like what you're doing now? Tell us how you got here, and really, give us the insider baseball on Jeb Terry.
All right. Well, given that you said North Carolina, go Heels, right? Got to get that out right now. We got to finish the season strong. But yeah, I went to UNC undergrad, was able to play football for the Heels, and really loved my experience there, and was fortunate to play in the NFL. And for a lot of athletes, that's the dream job. It still is the dream job. That was my favorite thing to do in the world. And the fact that I've got fired from my dream job and had to create new dreams is, I think, what propels me for the opportunities that I try to unpack every day, right? Is being able to kind of take all the inputs that are coming into a day-to-day, digest them, prioritize them, find opportunities, and like reinvigorate the passion that's still there for everything I do. And sport was just that primary opportunity for me, and the chance to play at the NFL was an amazing chance. Definitely a right, definitely a privilege, not a right. It's something that I really lean on a day-to-day basis. And when I could no longer play the game right at a really high level, it was time for me to reassess, figure out what I wanted to do next. And a logical step for me was to go back to get my MBA. So I did the full-time MBA. I went back to Carolina. I just can't quit the Carolina blue. A lot of us in the world feel that same way. And I really thought I was going to go the banking route coming out of the MBA, either investment banking or private wealth or something in the capital markets. And some of that still is what I do on a day-to-day basis from an investing landscape. But I found kind of an opportunity to lean into what I felt like I was one of the best in the world at and had differentiated knowledge, and that was in pro sports. From the athlete side, and finding ways to leverage kind of that experience, that skill set, the ability to work with a diverse subset of really high performers and figure out ways to pull on those levers. And the first thing I did out of the MBA program was I had a startup. It was originally called Gridiron Grunts. It was a mobile video platform for professional athletes. Started as audio, moved to video, and was getting real-time video from the biggest, best NFL players in the world. We eventually rebranded that Straightcast Media, and we're working with all the broadcasters, and actually the company was acquired by Fox Sports, and that's what brought me out to LA. And so I was able to go from professional athlete to sports media entrepreneur, really working on the forefront of when the iPhone was coming out, which was a really amazing time. Twitter was blowing up. Instagram was just becoming a thing. Vine was a really big short form video platform at the time. There's a lot of stuff changing in sports media tech in general.
And you're in the forefront of that in LA, kind of seeing how that space is changing overnight.
Oh, no. You can imagine when we were working with a lot of broadcasters, we actually had to have landscape video, right? So portrait mode was not allowed. The video could not be shaking. People were worried about framing of the athlete, right? The selfie video. And you can see where things have gone today, right now, where, TikTok and shaky organic video is the thing. But it was really interesting to see how that has all changed. And where we really got escape velocity is where we can make it where we went straight to broadcast video. So now all of our partners could get real first person, real-time video content from the biggest athletes in the world. And so we were able to turn that into an opportunity to go join the Fox Sports family. And I spent a lot of time there doing cross-platform innovation at Fox. So working through all of our IP library and distributing it across multiple platforms, whether it be web, social, immersive, so headset, short form, long form, whatever it may be, and that bridge between linear and digital. And a lot of that was the immersive layer, right? And so it was an amazing opportunity. You got to work on things like the World Cup, the World Series, Super Bowl, across all types of sports, across all types of medium. And it was a really, really great time. I left Fox to go pursue opportunities in the blockchain space. I think you all know that as well. We were looking at, tokenizing sports IP. And it was a really unique time about, call it 3.5 years ago. We went really deep into the space and learned a lot. I learned a lot. And it was, I think we're a little bit early there, clearly. I mean, that whole industry has evolved quite a bit, and we're seeing just the amazing adoption right now of the NFT space and blockchain and the utility of that technology in general. It's really exciting to see. But after I moved off the blockchain opportunity, started exploring, what is the next gen fan experience, right? What is, how do we give fans a way to express their fandom? How do we let them enjoy their favorite content? And how do we blend that with, technological advances today? And my lens was through immersive video, through the fan watch party experience, through low latency streaming, through data layers, and all those things. And that's how we really started unlocking what Cosm is, and where we're going today. So got a little long-winded there, apologies, but that was
but I think it's interesting.
Journey.
It's the athlete perspective. It's the media perspective. It's kind of really understanding the technologies that are enabling, new and innovative ways. I mean, you're dabbling in it, you're working in it. Not everyone comes to build a company, you're kind of through the inside, out, but also outside in, is what I'm hearing. And, it takes that kind of exposure and the capital markets, to your point before, to see kind of the opportunity. I mean, we talk about it all the time. What is that new futuristic way that fans want to watch and consume content, and what you guys are, so lay out what you're doing at Cosm, because I think that backstory is really helpful of, like, I lived it and then I saw this vision. How did you get the vision for Cosm? What's the background and what you guys do? I know what you do, but tell our listeners what you do.
Well, my elevator pitch is about 100 stories right now. How long do we have? But at the end of the day, and the beauty of working in sports entertainment is that it's all about fandom, right? And that fan in general, and the insatiable appetite for fans and consumers to really engage and lean into the things they know and love. Sport by nature is just incredibly energetic and passionate, right? And people want to express their fandom in unique ways. So how do we leverage technology and the path of innovation to give fans more power, more autonomy, more access, more ways to celebrate that fandom, right? Yep. It can be through first-time video, for real-time video with their favorite athletes, like a FaceTime. That could be one way to do it. It could be deeper data overlays. It could be all access to a locker room. There are a lot of ways to do that. But what we've done at Cosm, we say we want to redefine the way the world experiences content, right? That's like the top line. And what does that really mean? And it's, can we give fans that courtside seat, that best seat in the house to the biggest sports events in the world? And we're able to actually do that through immersive video. So everything that's happened in the immersive industry. So all the R's, the AR, the VR, the XR, MR, all of that great technology, but we're able to couple that with the experience economy, right? And this notion of people in general want to go out and do experiences. They want to go to watch parties. We've seen it with the Deer District, right? With Jurassic Park, with all the World Cup watch parties, and this innate desire for fans to get together in a big group and watch the match, watch the game. And so that's what we're doing, is putting that fan habit and the immersive tech together and creating these experiential sports venues where fans can go and watch their favorite events with hundreds of like-minded fans, right? Yeah. So you still get the energy of the crowd, but the all-access viewpoint of what you might have once gotten in a VR headset, but now at a massive scale.
Yeah, I want to underscore that point. This, we all remember the VR, virtual reality craze that swept through the industry a few years back. I remember, what's AR? What's VR? I mean, it was a big hot button.
All the R's.
Yeah, everyone's asking us about it. I remember a few years ago, and that cumbersome experience, the headsets, the compatibility issues, like it kind of, drained the buzz, if you will. And, one thing people said is like, wow, it's a great visual experience and I've used it, but like, I can't see the person next to me. Sports at the end of the day is communal. Sports is about bringing communities together. We're going to talk a lot about this on this podcast. It's what we're helping this industry right now really rethink, is this community-based monetization model. And the fact that you're building something for fans that is both immersive, which is a big component of that VR craze, but also that ability to be together, which is that missing link, is why, again, I love what you guys are up to. How much of, again, when you build these venues, and if you haven't checked out, go on the website, because it's hard to have a podcast and explain it. It's like, right, I don't know, you've described it to me like a, I don't know, it's like an IMAX combined with a planetarium, but it's like sports content. So you got that like cool video, immersive look all around you, but you're with people, not with yourself.
So if you think about immersive content, that output is typically a sphere, right? A digital sphere of content. And when you wear a VR headset, you're in it and looking around. Mm-hmm. The best way to express that is through a dome structure, right? We happen to be the world's leader in dome structures. One of our subsidiaries, the core of our kind of technology DNA, is the world's leader in planetariums. So we've done Liberty Science Center, Griffith Observatory, Shanghai Astronomy Museum, Adler, all the biggest and best planetariums in the world. And that's really the first immersive theater or experiential theater ever, right? The ability to put a astronomically and mathematically correct universe on a doubly curved surface is the same tech we're leveraging to put you on the sidelines at a World Cup match, right? Put you pitch side, put you rink side, right? At the Stanley Cup. It's that same core tech, and we can bring in those immersive feeds and express it there. Now we're pushing the forefront of LED technology. At our experience center, we have an 8K LED dome, the most advanced display in the world. We can run it at 120 hertz. We have amazing playback capabilities that allow for low latency point-to-point streaming. And so that means I can be in this space with hundreds of people, right? No headsets, nothing, looking at a massive LED dome that really, it gives you the feeling of being there. We have perforated LED panels where sound can come through. So we have real spatial audio. We can do haptics. We can do all these things so we can put together this experience like you're actually there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fans around the world will never get courtside at an NBA game, right? Or sidelines of an NFL game. This is the next best thing to do that, right? And being able to democratize access to these massive events through technology gives you that experience. And, you know, look, you got to come visit and see it for yourself in person, because it is amazing, the experience we can unlock.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of your recent activations, you mentioned, you know, not everyone's going to be at a courtside event, but the Olympics, which, you know, is near and dear to me, 99.9% of fans never go to an Olympics, but the ability to have a pop-up experience where you can actually feel like you're there. You essentially created that shared VR experience with a number of Olympians during the last the Tokyo Games, right? The Salt Lake City Experience Center, that activation. So walk us through what that is. I know you're able to host athletes and their families, and you know, and ideally they have a beer in their hand and they're hanging out and they're looking at their kids or their friends or their, you know, fellow Americans. And why is this I want to play off of not the majority of fans, if you're actually building a global property, will never actually buy a ticket.
Right.
It's really important in our forecast for this industry. We believe that's going to be a lower and lower relative percentage of your revenue in the future. And as you grow and scale, having an offering on the market that allows you to be, you know, again, creating more media experiences where you can actually be global but immersive at the same time is a defining feature of, again, this future fan, fluid fan. So anyway, long-winded way of saying, like, ticket revenue is slowly going to get smaller in our projections. Media is going to get bigger, and you're actually able to then bring a experience for, you know, Olympians, but global properties in the future. So tell us what that activation looked like for those.
I mean, COVID, you know, dealing with the global pandemic, with COVID, it even made it more extreme, right? It was the most extreme use case because fans weren't allowed in stadiums.
Yeah.
So it's okay. What do we do here?
Yep.
And look, at the end of the day, it's all about making the sports brands more accessible to their fans, giving them more ways to celebrate that IP, right? And that's the key thing. Our business is not about being cannibalistic and taking away from an existing revenue stream, right? We look at adding to it and creating a new way for fans to enjoy that fandom, that content, that trophy IP in another new, different type of way that adds
revenue
to
diversification, new revenue. Pie is bigger. Yeah.
Make it pie bigger, right? And that's really what we've done. And so with the Olympics, we were able to work with the US OPC, or USOPF. I don't know if it's federation or committee at the end of that. And it changes a little bit on us.
U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. I was on the board. I know.
There it is. There it is. So
Which is
working
good.
with
We're more
USOPC,
inclusive now.
That's right. And then also with NBC, right, as the rights holders,
Yep.
we're able to bring this immersive feed into our prototype, right, in Salt Lake City. We were able to go live from Tokyo sidelines at the volleyball match, right? Beach volleyball. So we were able to fly into the stadium literally and be there with a courtside view of the live feed, and we turned the entire dome into that stadium view where you're there. We had food trucks. We also had additional Olympians coming to speak. We were able to bring the linear feeds as well into a really dynamic viewpoint. So all of the Peacock feeds, all the NBC feeds. And so we were able to create a big event around all this great content coming out of Tokyo. One was immersive, a bunch were linear. And then, it just lends to being able to do stat overlays and having, medal counts and social feeds and really putting you, the fan, in an amazing environment, and the applications extend, far and wide. And, I don't know if we'll get into it now, but the way that the future of the sports book, right? You should come see our demo because our sports book demo is insanity. How cool and dynamic that can be. And it's really about being able to bring in all the inputs, right? All the advanced stats, all the views, all the angles, everything, and be able to express it in a really cool way.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, with linear, I mean, you might have a big, nice 8K TV, but there's limited real estate. Whereas these experiences, again, you get more real estate to play with, more stats, and every fan is different. Some talk about additional feeds, but in what I've seen from some of the demos, you can actually give them that, complete view that you might get in a VR headset. But again, you're doing it together. You're able to have real estate to share different perspectives, different angles, different ways of
100%.
behaviors that, some fans want to behave by betting and they want the stats. And on the other side of the sort of experience, they maybe they just want a different storyline, or they want the heart rate, or they want to understand how those athletes are, feeling at that moment in time. So you're combining what I like the immersive media, which we've talked about, with the smart venue practice, which we also talk a lot about here. So it's a physical manifestation or blend of the physical and the kind of the virtual, if you will.
Well, if you think about all the venues right now, right, they're trying to level up the interactivity and connectivity that fans can have. And can they offer an in-person fan experience different than they can get at home?
Yeah.
Right. So connected to the app with a sports book in the venue, different types of food, different types of seats, different access. And so, I think we are really on trend with the way these properties are trying to go and giving a differentiated type experience.
Yeah.
And I think one of the keys that we try to deliver is being able to deliver that same feed that's being produced can be used at home with the fan on the couch, or can be used in a Cosm venue. And so we can deliver value right from couch to Cosm, so that you can always give that fan a unique input, unique viewpoint, and let them decide and give them the choice of how they want to experience their favorite content or favorite team.
How would you say then you've separated yourself from the competitors? I don't know of anyone else in this market per se. In some ways, I wonder your market, what's the reaction you've received from the market? One, there are a lot of people that, it's a zero-sum game. Oh, if you're, sending people to a Cosm versus like buying a ticket, that's bad because everyone's trying to get people back into stadiums. But to your point, maybe they, one, physically can't be there because it's across the globe, but two, like what's been the market feedback? I'm curious. Do properties see you as competitive, or do they actually see you as a new revenue stream, a new way to allow them to consume?
It's a new opportunity for them. That's the biggest thing, to share their brand out there, right? Find more ways to monetize that brand, find more opportunities to engage the fan. If you think about it, let's look at a big NFL stadium right now. They might have 8 home games a year, right? That's 8 days. How else can they figure out ways to leverage that capital, that asset they have in a stadium, and drive footfall and drive monetization around non-match days, around away games, around the real estate around those stadiums as these districts are becoming more integrated, right? Being more entertainment districts as a whole. And we're able to provide a unique solution there. And so it's definitely one of these things where, wow, this is a unique opportunity to find more monetization lines, more ways to engage the fans that might not be able to get there at a given game day. And that's the biggest thing is, give fans more choice and a way to, celebrate their favorite teams. And that's what we're seeing resonate really, really well. And we've heard, the market has responded very strongly as well. And we're excited about a few announcements we'll be able to have later this year.
Cool. All right. Well, you're giving us a little early indicator. We'll wait for that tease. One announcement you made earlier or last year, I guess. It's already the end of 2021. What's going on?
I don't know.
You guys acquired Live Like VR, and that's for those of you that don't know, the immersive arm of Live Like. So Mihir Wallavacher is the CEO there. He's also on one of our leadership boards. Got to know him and his unique solution. You guys essentially acquired a piece of what he was building over at Live Like. Can you talk about that capability? Why it was important to bring it in to what you're building on the VR side of the business?
Yeah. So look, at Cosm, we're really born out of some M&A activity, right? We acquired basically 3 companies to put it all together, one of which was Live Like VR, and also really heavy investment in R&D, right? To come out and really create what we think is a category defining one of one, right? You asked about our competition earlier. We don't see much in a full stack approach, especially on the live sports side. There's other companies that do experiential technology that might sell dome hardware, that might be, a unique type of content rendering engine, but from the full stack and from the use case, we think we're category defining. Eventually you'll describe what we do. It's like, oh, that's just Cosm, right? It is a Cosm. And we were able to acquire Live Like VR as a way to continue to invest in the immersive industry as a whole, right? To continue to ensure this type of immersive feeds are getting captured and distributed. And it was opportunistic, right? For us to come in, and we had great experience of working with them when we were at Fox, right? Live Like VR powered our World Cup VR experience and a lot of our college football things. So we knew the company well, we knew the team well, and we really believed in their tech and their approach. And as we look to really mitigate our future state risk, right, and bring in core capabilities in-house, this was one of those things that made a lot of sense to us. And we really loved being able to work with the team that we brought on with the acquisition. A large engineering team that we have now in India as well as a Cosm immersive team. And then as well with some other production professionals, and Fabrice and Jeremy and a lot of guys on the team have joined us at Cosm. And it really allows us to continue to push the forefront of live immersive production. And that's a critical part of our strategy is we really believe rising tide lifts all ships. And we continue to invest in tangential type companies and things that we think are at the forefront of innovation in sports in particular, that kind of will help us deliver at the end of the day that amazing Cosm-worthy experience.
All right, so I'll be on the lookout for your M&A activity here in the near future. I hear it. I think it's coming though. I know you think big, Jeb. So
no small thoughts here.
You're like me. Go big or go home.
That's right.
People go, that's right. You're working, you're working with an Olympian. What do you expect? I'm like, no, you're working with a pro athlete. Like we've been trained to go through a wall and like, don't take no for answers.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me no, and I'm going to want to do it more.
All right. So before we kind of break and go to our 4 with 4 innovation questions, what's your outlook on this industry? I know you've touched on kind of immersive media, but I'm curious to get, you mentioned the pandemic before, which I think was a really important moment for the sports industry, recognizing that maybe fans don't want to come back or it's harder to come back. And media is going to be, again, a big opportunity in the future. Like, what's your vision for this space outside of just what you're doing at Cosm, but where's media in sports headed?
Well, I will say the fan is as healthy as they've ever been, right? The appetite to be a fan, I think, is as strong as ever. The opportunity to self-identify as a Tar Heel, right? Like, I do it all day, every day, and you're seeing that as fans express their fandom across the globe, right? So that's the big opportunity, and the appetite for fans to be fans, right? To find those releases in sport in particular I think it's never been stronger. You have the experience economy, which I also think has never been stronger. You've seen the viral craze of the immersive Van Gogh exhibit around the world. You see the Netflix Stranger Things pop-ups. You see secret cinema. You see all these things that continue to show that consumers in general want to get out, want to do fun things, want to activate. That's a function of, you know, our social media culture and being able to say, I was here doing that, doing cool things, right? But it's also just, I think, a function of human need that COVID has accelerated, and it's really focused us all that we want to go out and do things, right? Being locked up, you know, in quarantine, you know, it just shows people what they want to go experience and get out and do. And then the media landscape. Look, this is something I think we all know. The tectonic shifts are moving, right? And the pandemic only accelerated that. And it's now forced major properties to start to think differently and think about the changing business models. The D2C approach, everything happening in the OTT space, right? All of that is continuing to move and change. The legacy models are getting broken. It got accelerated through the pandemic, and we're starting to see the adoption of technologies now that, you know, seem really far flung. I think, I don't even know the ratings right now, but you look at the Manning Monday Night Football broadcast, you see people talking about that all day, every day, right? About these, and that's a new kind of behavior, right? And fans are leaning in and loving that. And, you know, I think we're just going to see more and more of that happening. And so my outlook for the industry is that it is shifting, but overall incredibly robust and healthier than it's ever been. There's going to be some realignment. There's going to be some shifting along some of the big leagues and things like that, especially overseas, as we've seen right in the last year. The capital stacks are changing quite a bit, right? There's more access to ownership, and that's going to change the top line demand of what their deliverables are on an annual basis. And so things are going to continue to move there. And I think this next 5 to 10 years is going to be just an amazing ride as we get to sit here and watch and hopefully influence the way the industry moves.
Yeah. Behaviors are changing. To your point, it's a healthy market. But understanding the fluid fan, understanding how their behaviors are shifting, building a business model around those changing behaviors is the future. So that's what we do every day, by the way.
Well, the biggest change now, Angela, that I don't think anyone can refute, is that the fan's in control.
Yeah, you said before the phrase I hear all the time now is direct to consumer, and we've been saying for years, why don't you start with the consumer? Why is the fan, the consumer, at the heart of your strategy? And now we're seeing this emphasis on direct to consumer because the power is shifting into their hands. And so you better understand those people. You better build experiences that drive revenue at the end of the day. And it's no longer a B2B business. I mean, that model still exists, and it will for, I don't know, a decade. I don't know what your prediction is here, but to your point of it's unraveling, not it's going to go away. It's just unraveling in a new way. So that,
you know what the biggest tell of this whole thing is, and this isn't part of the 4 with 4, is what Fanatics has done this year. I mean, you're going to ask me what I think some of the most innovative companies and people are.
Yeah.
It's Michael Rubin and what they're doing, right? And the expansion, right, of merch distribution, right, to really starting to lean into that fan relationship and offering new products, and now no longer Panini and Tops, right? I mean, it is that to me is one of the most amazing stories of the year is what that company is doing and the strides that he's making. It's incredibly impressive to do what he's done. And that's one of my favorite things to watch.
Yeah. Taking a global e-commerce platform and turning it into a machine. They just announced the deal with the Olympics, and I'm like, thank you. Finally, you're a fan of the Olympics. You can buy shit. Why is it taking so long?
Why is it taking so long? I mean, it's amazing what they're doing.
I agree. It's definitely a story we're following very closely.
I'm sure some people love it. Some people hate it, but
hey, it's just like anything. I'm sure you had some guys come in. Hey, who's that guy? What's he doing? I got to work a little harder here. He's going to take my spot, or she's going to take my spot. It's good. It's good. Competition's good in this space. We need more of it. All right, so let's pivot to 4 with 4, where I get your take on innovation. You started to touch on it, but like if you had to simplify what innovation means to you, what would you say?
Improving the fan experience across multiple type of medium, right? Giving the fan control. I think if you can't just innovate for innovation's sake, right? It's not like creating a new widget on a product roadmap. No, innovation is about giving the fan, more accessibility, more options, more ways to access their favorite teams and access that experience they know and love. And it's got to also really drive ROI. I sometimes you get in some of these rooms and people talk about these really far crazy ideas of innovation, and it's just going to be, and the reasoning is it's just going to be better, right? But
yeah,
again, you have to innovate, to drive your business forward. And I think also innovation is looking at a stale equation and either putting in a new variable to create something totally new, right? Or being able to just think differently about it. That to me really showcases, the best of what innovation can be, is when you're able to see just a totally different value proposition out of a standard state.
Awesome. Who's doing it well then? Who do you can't say Michael Rubin because you already said him, but
I already said that. And look, I don't know if this is as media tech centric as ever, but it touches on a lot of things, and hyper ice is something I think is super compelling because it started with the need to ice your elbow or your knee or your shoulder. And they've created, $1 billion enterprise out of that need and gone out. And now me as a fan, I can go use the same rehab equipment that, LeBron James uses, right? I can get a Theragun, the same thing that they're using at the biggest, my favorite athletes. Now I have access to that equipment, right? And being able to create and innovate tech wise into that to me, it's amazing to me that they took that industry of rehab that was once thought of as just for professional athletes, commercialized that to every fan, and created a connection there where now, me sitting on the couch can have access to that same equipment that I'm seeing on the NBA sidelines, right? That to me is pretty cool. Yeah. How they've innovated around that and created real enterprise value there.
Do you have injuries that you're rehabbing at night, Jeb?
Always.
I
got my hip replaced this year. It's a big step. Jeb 2.0 is back.
Jeb's got a lot of who's the most innovative company? You're hitting on it right now. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, that's real world experience though. You're like, man, I'm taking care of myself, even though I'm not playing, in the pros anymore.
Well, it's interesting because the connectivity of what they're doing to things like Whoop or the Apple Watch or, the connected, human, right, of tracking performance on a day-to-day and health metrics, and being able to tie into all that stuff and be in the middle of it and also impact, the pros, but also the average Joes and everyone in between. To me, that's super cool. We
our quantified athlete practice, we do a lot of work with Booz Allen in the military. It's a really interesting concept because if you're going to invest in, we always say, well, like, what's the total addressable market? If it's just the pros, and we see a lot of companies built just for the pros, we're like, that's tiny. If you're building a solution that uses the pros to pressure test, to get those stars to sign up, but is actually built for the fan, built for the consumer, that's a big market. That's truly democratizing and building an empire. I mean, that's Whoop. At the end of the day, they're smart in how they've grown. Like, kudos to Will.
Kudos to Will. He's done it. It's impressive. I'll admit I was a skeptic at early days, and he has proven me wrong. That's for sure. Yeah. It's impressive what he's done.
Yeah. All right. Any team, league, or federation you want to call out that you're like, what, they see it. We've got our innovative teams in the world report. We have our own perspective, but curious who you think is doing a great job.
I mean, this is probably not going to be a shocking answer to you, but the NBA. I mean, the NBA does it. They claim to be the most innovative, and I think in practice they really are. They have proven to be open to new ideas, leveraging new technologies, leaning in and supporting their superstars when people really supported team. If you think about the evolution of how leagues marketed themselves, right? Some places are about the league and the team brands, and players historically in the past, right, flowed up through that. When you look, and the NBA was, really on the first to really champion the player, and lean into that, and then giving players flexibility of being able to build their own brands and being open-minded to that, and looking how they need to be more global, and leaning into being more global, not just saying we need to be more global, but just really pushing it. And then all the different programs below, and just the way they integrate technology, the way they have an appetite to innovate, right, and test and understand. You got to test, explore, and learn. It's just been super impressive to me. I think they by far stand of the bigs really stand out as a super innovative, future thinking brand.
Yeah, I think they started with David Stern, direct to consumer. What are the ways we touch the fan? Again, fan centric. That's what we're all about. At the end of the day, they're the one, spending the money. So you got what do they care about? What do they need? Not what do you think is important?
Exactly.
The NBA gets a lot of love, and rightfully so, to your point.
Yeah, I know it's not an earth-shattering answer, but it's just
it's you can't argue with it. Everyone can always be better. I can call out what I would do differently,
of course,
but they're crushing it relative to the industry. They're definitely at the top of our list. So
what do you goes down to the way they do broadcast, right? You look at Charles Barkley and Shaq are doing, and the way they've changed the way those pregame and halftime things are, right? Like just personality and fun and entertainment, right? It's just
I don't watch for stats, and I don't care about half that. I don't. Right. I want to entertain me. Take me away from my day. I'm tired. Just give me something fun.
They did like the balloon game the other day on set, right? It was amazing watching Shaq jump over a couch to hit the balloon. It's just, it's fun. And that's about it. It's like, it's very fun.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks. We all want something different from sports, different behaviors. So,
yep.
Jeb, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your thinking, what you're building at Cosm. I love it. Wish you all the best. It's definitely a, different way to think about repurposing content, but in a way that is that community, that communal shared experience versus, at the end of the day, I always say that's what sports is all about. It's bringing people together that maybe normally wouldn't be on the same team, but they are because of sports, and you guys are certainly creating a shared experience. So kudos to what you're up to, and thank you for your support of our company and everything you do, and just sending you the best of luck as you continue to do your M&A deals. Keep us posted. We'll try to break the news for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Congrats on your raise, by the way. I know you guys just went through a round of funding, which is fantastic to see. It's awesome not only to see the sports industry, but also the investing community continuing to believe in y'all's story, your story, and congrats on that. It's awesome to see. I'm a big believer in your work and your team's work, and think it's incredibly valuable to just the industry as a whole. So keep up yours as well. And I got to get you to Salt Lake to see it, until we get our first Cosm open for the consumer, open invite to you and your listeners, right, to come and check us out.
What's the date? What are we marking on our calendars? You still TBD?
Just to come to when we open the first consumer visiting. That's something that we hope to announce later this year.
All right, so I'll hold off, but I'm there. I'm bringing my my betting game too. I gotta
bring your betting game. Come to Salt Lake to see
that was
it
a
first.
piece of it. I gotta bring my betting game. I'm starting to dabble. So.
Okay. Dangerous. Insider info. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for having me on, Angela. It's always fun. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll do this in person soon.
I love it. Would love that.
Yeah.
Big thanks again to Jeb Terry, the president and CEO of Cosm. Jeb and his team, I think, are really changing the way the industry looks at media and the venue experience. Again, taking that globalization trend, it's not a trend anymore, but really enabling sports properties to use their content and diversify their revenue and create a whole new experience in the sports media and tech landscape. So I love one thing we talked about today, the power of togetherness. It's a major part of fluid fandom. Communities, we're going to talk all the time coming up on this community-based monetization model. So what Cosm is doing, why we had him on today, is they really are creating a shared experience, helping to redefine the way sports content is distributed, and not just again in your isolated VR or isolated living room, but in a shared venue, which I love. It's why I love sports. You guys know that I love what sports can do. Sports I love on paper, but I always find what's even more powerful is the platform that sports creates to bring people together. So kudos to Cosm and Jeb. Keep up the good work. I want to close by thanking my producer, Jack Barlow, as well as my entire team at Sports Innovation Lab. Thank you, the listener, for tuning in today. Please feel free to subscribe to our show. Love when you do that. Give us some nice stars. You can find us on literally any podcast channel. And if you haven't already, follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter at Sports iLab, or my personal channels at Angela Ruggiero. You can Google it. It's probably hard to spell my name. I'm used to that. It's cool. Thanks for listening again, and I'll see you next time on the Fluid Fan Podcast.